All right, welcome back. Crash the Party, episode 3, Rick Drogo. This video was recommended right after the last one we watched, so I thought, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and watch it because I want to do this where I'm watching things that the Republican news / media podcast say, and then Democrat as well, and all parties, and we'll watch them together and see what they have to say, because this is what I want to talk about. I'm watching one thing and it's talking about the war with Iran. This is why it's happening. And then I look in the other side and I see them saying this, all these other people over here are saying this, and I can't believe they believe that. It's such a joke. And it's running down a whole nother story. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I wanted to start doing it, because suddenly I'm concerned about politics and I don't understand them. And this is a big problem. We're getting two different stories here. And we're adults. And this is a problem. Obviously, I'm late to the party. And that's why this is called Crash the Party, because I'm coming in and look, I'm America. I am America. I'm a 42-year-old husband and a father of 4 kids. Okay, I'm a roofer, and I'm a productive part of society. I don't drink or do drugs, and this is what America is based on: is men like me. All right, so you can tell me otherwise. There's a lot of other profiles that make America, yes, but I'm one of them, and that's so. So if I'm standing here saying, "Okay, look, you want my vote? All right, then let's talk about what's important." And so, anyways, I'm about going off on a little tangent there, but just in case you have never watched the show before, I don't know much about politics. This is my 3rd episode doing this. The first 2, I'm learning about the basics of politics. Okay, so if you want to correct me, I want to be corrected. Put it down in the comment section. Subscribe so that you can show me every single day along the way where I'm wrong, because I need correction. So let's check this out. Tucker Carlson, I know he's very popular, and what I understood to be a Republican right side, he was all for Trump. Now, he's saying, okay, look, we messed up here, Trump. And Trump's firing on him online, completely crashing out on him. And so, yeah, what's going on? Anyways, let's check this out.
Donald Trump is a famously irreligious man, just not that interested, basically secular, a product of his time and place. If you doubt that, some of the funniest clips ever of Donald Trump, and this is not a criticism, they're legit funny, are him being interviewed during the 2016 campaign and asked basic questions like, what's your favorite book of the Bible? To which he says, with some confusion, well, the Bible, maybe unaware there are component books to it. So Donald Trump is not someone who traditionally, or ever really, has weighed in on questions of faith or theology. Kind of gives it a pass, sort of smiles. Yeah, I'm for it. The Bible. But in the space of 1 week, Donald Trump, the same famously irreligious Donald Trump, has weighed in pretty specific ways on matters of faith and theology and religion publicly in ways that are disruptive and sort of hard to understand, but worth trying to understand. So all of this began about 10 days ago on Easter Sunday, early on Easter Sunday, before 9 a.m. on Easter Sunday, when
I just want to say what Tucker Carlson just said there, it's worth trying to figure out. This is something that I agree with, is that he is our president. Okay. Now, my stance on Trump here, real quick, is like I said, I'm 42 years old. I've watched Trump in the media and in the news my whole life. So he was a very polarizing figure. When I found out he was running for president, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I'm starting to think this is silly, but I'm not into politics at the time, so I really don't care. And I've watched him on his show, right? Very wild figure. And I've heard of other stuff about him. And so he's running for president, and a lot of people are like really talking him up. And from what some people are saying, I'm like, yeah, maybe it's what the country needs. A lot of people were saying we need a businessman running the country, and I don't know. So I'm like, whatever. So he gets elected, and I've just always been like, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I said at the time, really didn't care about politics. Just don't want to go to war. Ultimately, don't want anybody attacking our country. And so when he was elected president, things seemed whatever to me. I didn't really care. We got a little check. That was cool, but I still, didn't really have a firm stance on him. But I've just always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then, when he was when he ran for president again and lost, he was really kind of showing himself. He's shown himself through what he has said over the years, big time. And we're seeing it kind of play out a little bit more now. Like I said, I still am up in the air about him. Kind of. I want to stay unbiased as much as possible. And as far as he goes right now, he's obviously making some decisions that aren't great from what I can tell. And so I've had his back. I say I've had his back. I've been not judging him as much as possible. But this really all started for me with the Epstein list, when he went and tried to say there's nothing in the list, and then there's no one to prosecute, and then all this other stuff. That's when I started becoming really concerned. When I saw him on an interview and he said, "You're still concerned about the Epstein list? Come on, nobody cares." It's like, dude, we care. Read the room. So, and he had personally attacked the lady who was asking the question, which he's done that before. I always thought it was tasteless, but I thought he was just trying to do it for shock value. But now I think it's just really maybe who he is. But anyways, with all that being said, it's still worth it to try to figure out what's going on with him. Same thing was with Biden. People were saying he was a clone or he was losing it. It's like, okay, well, let's try to figure out what's going on, right? So, okay.
On Easter Sunday.
Sorry about that runoff. I might do that, especially here in the beginning, given my, just showing you where I stand on a couple things. So that's where I'm at with Trump is. He's our president. I want to support him. But maybe he's making it hard to do that right now. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Early on Easter Sunday, before 9 a.m. on Easter Sunday, when Trump tweeted that he was planning on destroying civilian infrastructure in Iran. It was going to be bridge and power plant day, basically promising war crimes against civilians, against the population of the country. And then in that same tweet or truth, he used the F word on Easter Sunday. And then he seemed to make fun of Islam. Praise Allah, he said. So in one short statement of about 110 words, he seemed to give the finger to the world's two largest religions, Christianity and Islam. That was Sunday. And then exactly 1 week later, also on Sunday, the Christian holy day, he attacked the Pope, the leader of the world's largest religion and largest Christian denomination, and attacked him personally and said basically he's only Pope because of me. He's bad. The Pope is bad. And then later that day, maybe most interestingly, bafflingly of all, he sent out this meme. Take a look at this. Now, there are two on the screen. The one on the right is the one that he sent out, and it's himself. It's Donald Trump, President of the United States, dressed as Jesus, healing a man. You can see the healing power coming off of his right hand. Now, the image on the left of your screen is the original image, and it was floating around the internet. Who knows exactly where it came from, but it's been there for quite some time. The one on the right is the one the president sent out, White House Communications Office or whoever does this, sent out, and you'll notice that it's been changed, and the American soldier over the president's head, the president as Jesus' head, has been changed and is now, if you look very carefully, a demon, some kind of winged creature of hell. So it goes from an image that suggests, healing and light to an image that suggests, I don't know, a scene from Revelation, John's vision on the Isle of Patmos, the end times, the apocalypse, who knows? Nothing good. It suggests demonic power because there is a demon in it. So he sent that out. And then
I think that's a bit of a stretch. First of all, he said he's dressed like Jesus, and then he said there's a demon in it. Both of those are, you know, it's not for sure looking like Jesus. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Yeah, it kind of looks like Jesus, but and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to cover for Trump here. This is a very much not a smart idea, I think, with that, whatever that was. And I think they're trying to save face on it, but just still, I'm trying to give, what I am doing is trying to be fair and just saying, like, you know, he's almost kind of painting it a little bit more specific. So
withdrew it, deleted the tweet from the internet after an outcry, but was asked about it. And he said, yeah, I sent that. Didn't explain how the demon got in there. Someone at the White House put it in. Didn't explain why. And he said, I sent it out, but it wasn't me as Jesus, though obviously it is. It was me as a doctor because I heal people. Jesus, of course, basically described himself as a doctor, someone who came for the sick to heal them, which he did. So maybe a distinction without a difference, but still kind of confusing. And then today, a day later, was asked about it again, and he said, no, I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't send it out. Which wasn't exactly an answer to the question. Even more confusing. What was that? And then, to make it even further mysterious, sent out this meme on Truth Social, retweeting somebody else, and it's him, Donald Trump, being, I don't know, how would you describe that? Caressed by? Healed by? Maybe endorsed by Jesus. That's unmistakably Jesus, the Christian Messiah.
yeah, that is
The man God at the center of Christianity, with his arm around Donald Trump, basically saying, you go Trump, I'm on your side. So all of that in a little over a week. What does it mean? Because it certainly means something. This isn't so much a couple of memes. These are icons. This is iconography. These are attempts to send a statement about faith. What statement is the president sending? Well, not a coherent one. Doesn't actually add up to a theology. It's mockery. He's mocking Jesus. He's making fun of Christianity. The central figure of the religion is being held up for mockery, of course. And
I don't know that he's mocking it. I'm not saying he's not mocking it, but he just really kind of seems like he's almost heading towards the same boat that I viewed Biden there near the end, where it's like he's old and is like just making bad decisions based off of naivety and ignorance. You know, like, what are you doing, dude? Read the room. Or, you know, things that are tasteless. Or unless somebody else is setting this up, you know, because who's in the White House letting them post this stuff? That's what kills me. What are we doing here? You don't have anybody stopping you?
held up for mockery, of course. And his description of how this got out is itself mockery of the idea of truth. One day he says, yeah, I did it. Next day he says, no, I didn't do it. Both are on video.
Yeah, it's not.
That's not really a lie. It's more than a lie. It's bigger than a lie.
It's terrible.
It's an attack not just on a specific set of facts. It's an attack on the idea that there are facts. It's an attack on truth. Openly. No one's hiding this. So this was kind of dismissed after a online kerfuffle for a few hours, and people were outraged, and then they weren't, and we've got other things to worry about. They moved on. But for sincere religious people, for Christians who care about Jesus and what's true and what's not, a lot of them went to their Bibles to try and figure out, what are we watching here? And a lot of them came up with a couple of verses that seemed to fit what we're watching. And if you are a sincere Christian or know some, maybe you got these texted to you, but we'll read them just so you know how a lot of people of faith were interpreting this. The first is from Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians, the church of Thessalonica, chapter 2, a very well-known verse in which he's describing what's going to happen when Jesus comes back. And he says, you're going to hear that Jesus is coming back. Don't believe what you hear. A bunch of things have to happen before he returns to earth, redeems the world, history ends. And you'll know that he's coming by these events. And among them will be the rise of a figure he describes as the man of lawlessness, sometimes describes as the Antichrist. But the man of lawlessness is the phrase from his second letter to the Thessalonians. And he says this, there will be a great rebellion against God, led by that man of lawlessness. This man, quote, will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. He will pose as God. He will mock other gods and put himself in their place. That's from the second letter to the Thessalonians. But that's not the first place in the Bible, Old and New Testaments, where something like this is described. Variations of this are in a number of prophecies in what Christians call the Old Testament, including those contained in the book of Daniel. The prophet Daniel describes something very much like this at the end of history, and he's describing this period, really, as is so often described in the prophets, as punishment. Punishment for faithlessness and sin. God's people are being punished for not following God. And that punishment, he describes in part in chapter 11 from the book of Daniel, predicts the coming of a king, and we're quoting now, a king who will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed, for what has been determined must take place. It's all ordained, in other words, preordained. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors, nor will he regard any god, but will exalt himself above them all. So to a lot of Christians, or people who know the Bible well and believe in it, these predictions in both the Old and the New Testament, and there are others, seem to fit what we were watching. Here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist? Well, who knows? At least that's my conclusion. Who knows? We're also told repeatedly in the New Testament that you're not going to know that Jesus will return like a thief in the night, and you better be ready because you can't predict it. But we're also told there are signs, and is this one of them? Well, again, unclear. This, by the way, fits the behavior of other leaders throughout history who saw themselves in a kind of rivalry with the gods of their people and sought to put themselves over those gods, exalt themselves above God. That's actually pretty common. That is really the definition of megalomania. And it's happened before and will doubtless happen again. But that's clearly what this is. This is mockery of God by a temporal leader, by a man. This is the leader of our country saying, I will take no instruction from God because, as he showed in the first meme, I am God. Okay. So that kind of raises the question, is that okay?
You know, he does make a good point there. I said I don't think Trump was mocking God or Christianity, but it could be mockery without intention. The more I think about it, it's like you can mock something and you just don't really personally, like, let's say I'm giving my mom a hard time. Maybe I'm like mocking her when I'm just kind of teasing her and I don't really realize it, but that doesn't mean it's not mockery in the definition. And so, not that I think Trump is the Antichrist or I think Christ is coming back anytime soon. I think the Antichrist is going to be a lot more liked than Donald Trump.
Spring is the most refreshing time of year. Nothing complements it better than errands with convenience. We know because we've done a few seasonal, but it promises.
I do like
and
Black
if you prefer
Rifle
variety without
I'm
lowering the
actually
bar.
drinking it, so
Try the
I'm gonna skip
supply
through this
drop
ad,
variety
but-
coffee. Rifle coffee standing,
Oh, that was the end of the
still
video.
brewing.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, that was good. I liked it. I like Tucker for the most part. He seems level-headed. I've always thought he seemed legit. So, but but I'm just now really watching him. And so this was my first time today really kind of seeing a red flag maybe in him, where he was like, he's depicting himself as Jesus here. And I mean, he for sure kind of does look like it. But in that thing he said looks like a demon, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say that it's a demon for me personally, but who's to say? I'm really just throwing some commentary out there. But I still, and I'm going to try to do that in the show, is where I'm not like making blanket statements where it says Tucker Carlson definitely believes this, when I just don't know unless he says it. So, anyways, that was good. I really enjoyed it. You tell me, do you like Tucker? Do you not like Tucker? Did he betray Trump? Did Trump betray Tucker? What about the president? What are we thinking? Are we thinking he's mocking God, or maybe he's just not reading the room? Does Trump fit the profile of the man we heard in these scriptures, or what? What do you think? Tell me. Show me some love. Hit the like button and comment and subscribe so you can tell me all about how I'm wrong or how I'm right. Because I love you.